Hey Mona, man. How's everybody out there, man? And I'm back, man, once again. Like I told you, man, I'll be updating you with more videos, more truth, man, about everything. But this time I'm gonna get into the truth about your birth certificate real quick, man. Later on in the series, I'm gonna expose the college conspiracy. I'm gonna expose a lot of fraud that's been going on with colleges. But for now, we're gonna do your birth certificate. The birth certificate is probably the most important document used in society right now besides an ID. And I'm gonna tell you why. Right? In 1921, right, something called the Shepard-Towner Maternity Act was created, right? And this was known as the Maternity Act, and it was the Congress sold it to the American people as a law that said was going to protect the health of mothers and infants and children. But really what this did is it created something called parens patriae, that is Latin for government as parents. So truthfully, your children is owned by the American federal government, right? Now, you won't believe this, but before 1921, there was no birth certificates. And you might want to ask yourself, why was birth certificates created after 1921 then? I'm going to tell you why, man. The truth is that, international bankers who own the Federal Reserve were preparing for a collapse of the United States government. Now, the Federal Reserve was created in 1913. It was a central bank. The Federal Reserve, what it did was it printed the United States money because the Treasury was suspended de jure. And you all understand this later on in the video, but for now I'm just gonna make it real simple, right? Now, when the United States was taken off a gold standard in 1913, it was also taken off a silver standard way before then in 1873. So when it was taken off a gold standard, America was bankrupt. So what it did was it pledged its citizens as collateral based on the Birth Certificate Maternity Act. So each citizen technically became chattel, slaves. Your birth certificate is traded on the stock market. If you look at your birth certificate, it should have red numbers on it. Red numbers because these numbers are called CUSIP numbers. A CUSIP number is a number used for a bond or a certificate that is traded on the stock market. Now, man, I'm gonna get a little further deep into this this whole corrupt system we call the United States, right? You may ask yourself, who is running the United States? And what is the United States? Well, it's two different things, right? The United States is a corporation. America is a landmass. America is a geographical landmass. The United States is a corporation. And the reason why the United States is a corporation is because in 1871 for District of Columbia is basically the founding of the United States Corporation. You might say, what's the difference between District of Columbia and the United States? Like I told you before, District of Columbia is in the United States. The main goal of these founders, George Washington and a lot of other Freemasons, Adam Weishaupt, Albert Pike, Cecil Rhodes, J.P. Morgan, the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, their main goal is for control. They want to control. Secondly, if you look into the United Nations, you'll see that they had many different names before they were the United Nations. League of Nations. They had two other names I can't frankly remember now, but the United Nations was founded by Rockefeller. The oil guy. The guy who controls the oil. You learned about it in history class. You probably didn't, because you really don't really pay attention now these days. Nobody really cares. So, but yeah, man, you're not free. There's two types of constitutions. The constitution we're now under is called a Lex Fori constitution. Lex Fori was a Roman word when Caesar governed. When he governed with his commerce, he used to sit on something called Capitol Hill. We have a place called Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. now. But let's not talk about that. Anyway, two types of constitution. You have organic constitution and a de jure constitution, no, a de facto constitution. These two are very different. The first constitution said this is for the government for the United States. The second one was of the United States. Now, anytime you put of in something, it's denoting corporate ownership. Like, if I live in the state of Virginia as a corporate entity. As a person, I live in the state of Virginia. But as a free man, I live in Virginia State. Virginia State is a landmass. The state of Virginia is a municipal corporation. You know, that's the two different things about it, you know. And you know, these common usage words has been screwed and manipulated to a point where when you go into court, or when you pay taxes or pay anything, or when you get a credit card, or when you have a zip code or whatever, you know, it gives the federal government jurisdiction over your human body. When you consent, when you give the government consensual obligations for control, they have control. And you know, the longer you continue to let them control you, the longer it's going to be like this. You know, I'm not saying pick up guns and go crazy, but what I'm saying is educate yourself, inform others, and let's wake up from this sleep, man. Because everybody's sleeping. Everybody is asleep. Nobody wants to care. Let's watch TV. Let's watch the funny show. Let's go out and buy more stupid shit. Let's go out and go get drunk. Let's go out and party. You know, that's what the college system is. No one learning shit. The college system is basically an infrastructure of mass brainwashing and partying. I haven't met anyone in college that knows anything about Nikola Tesla. I haven't met anyone in college that knows anything about the District of Columbia Act, or sovereignty, or your straw man, or anything. You know, people ain't learning shit. And we vote for presidents, and they keep outsourcing jobs to India, and they keep putting their money in offshore banks. Come on, man. Why do you vote for these? Why do you trust these people? Why? Stop voting, man. You know, it's as simple as that, man. If you don't like what I say, man, it's cool, but you know, I'm gonna post the facts below and the links. I'm probably gonna say that twice, because I always do. No one ever looks at them though. But for my supporters, man, you know, y'all know the truth, man. Familiar with law, you know you must take something called the bar exam. The bar exam stands for British Attorney Registration. And you might say, why is it British? It's British because the British corporation is something called the Mother Corporation. You need to Google that anyway. The Mother Corporation was founded because in 1606, King James had something called the Virginia Charter. The Virginia Charter sold the United States to the Great Britain, to the Queen. There's also something called the Treaty of Paris, 1789. Yeah, this sold the United States to Great Britain also. There's many legislative documents that prove the United States is a corporation. But you want to talk about some pledge allegiance and all that shit? Wake the fuck up, man. Wake up, man. One more thing about the whole situation is this: the IRS is not a government agency. The IRS is like the Federal Reserve. It's a private corporation. And you might say, who owns this? Who owns these corporations? Who owns this? Well, that's a great question, because if you don't know, you need to say, what about the Emancipation Proclamation? What about the slaves that were freed in 1865? Well, the slaves wasn't freed later on until 1879. The Emancipation Proclamation didn't free slaves in Washington, D.C. It didn't free slaves everywhere. So the Emancipation Proclamation wasn't even a constitutional amendment. It was a legislative act. Acts, laws, and statutes and codes are not the same. They call it an act because it's what it is. It's an act. When you go before a judge, did you know he is acting as a legal, executive, judicial administrator? He's acting. He has on a robe and a wig. It's a play. Because the first lawyers were called the Great Britain Lawyers Guild. You know what a guild is? Like an acting guild. You know, when you get stopped by the sheriff, he has on a suit. It's a play. He's dressing up for his part in the play. When you attend meetings, legislative meetings, you're dressed as a citizen. You play the part of a citizen. Everybody involved in the United States capitalistic society is playing a game. They're in a play right now. And you look at all these Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Loonco, all these bankers, the Federal Reserve Cartel. You look at all these. Why they never go to prison for? Why do you go to prison for? You know the money you have isn't even real. It's not even worth the paper it's printed on. You know? And you want to talk about some vote for Mitt Romney, vote for Obama. It don't matter who you vote for, man. The Federal Reserve always wins. It don't matter who you vote for. You can vote for Jesus, man. As long as the Federal Reserve here, it's gonna be a small group of people controlling your life. You gotta wake up before it's too late, man. Gotta wake up before it's too late, man. Straight up, man. Any questions about what I said or anything? I got links at the bottom of the video to prove everything I said. If you want to get free, man, what you need to do is legally free yourself first. Acceptance for value, UCC1 forms. The list goes on, man, of legal ways you can free yourself. You need to gain your sovereignty back. Truth affidavit, get one of those. You know, you don't need a driver's license. You don't need an ID. Driver's license are for drivers. There's rules against driving, but you can't show me one rule against traveling. It's illegal to travel. It's illegal to drive without a driver's license. Stop letting these people out of you, man. Stop voting. Stop paying taxes, man. Stop working. Wake up, man. Go enjoy life. Because if you don't, man, you're going to be in this trap, this cycle. It's your boy Raheem, man. I'm out. One love to everybody.